Good morning, brand DIYers. It is Mark here again, and fourth time lucky, they always say. I tried to do this broadcast this morning at 10 o'clock Pacific time. It didn't work twice. Don't know quite what's going on with the feed. Just tried it again now. It snapped off again, so let's try fourth time lucky. Thank you very much for joining me today. I've got a topic that I think is a lot of fun, especially considering Christmas. I was inspired to do this by a very, very iconic brand that is synonymous with Christmas and not by accident. Now, let's talk about being iconic. I think that this is something super important for every brand to remember and try to be. Icon, the word, has religious implications, goes all the way back to antiquity. An icon is a symbol or a form that suggests a meaning, and you can see why it started in religious circles. You've got the shape of the cross, you've got the moon, you have got the Star of David, you have got icons that have very, very strong emotional, philosophical, and political implications to them. Started with religion. However, anybody who builds a brand will tell you to create a brand that is iconic, where the form of the brand, some shape or color, suggests the brand is a powerful, powerful asset. Let's go back to the Christmas story. Brands like Coca-Cola understood the power of an icon intuitively, and they kept their brand consistent through the years to build up the icon. What was the icon? Of course, it was the uniquely shaped bottle, but just as much it was the color red. And this brings us to Christmas. Some of us, myself included, believed that the color red on Santa's suit was put there on purpose by the Coca-Cola company, prior to which Santa's suit was green or tan. However, this is fake news. I looked it up. And in fact, a gentleman named Thomas Nast started portraying Santa in a red suit in the 1870s. Coca-Cola, however, annexed that red color and made it their own when they started using Santa in their posters, beautiful posters, paintings done by, I believe, Norman Rockwell, where Santa in his red suit was holding a Coke, and Coke became synonymous with Christmas. So every time you thought of Christmas, you thought of Coke, it gave you a warm feeling. That's a huge win for the brand. Now, other brands have been extremely successful at becoming iconic. Take a look at the start of Nike. And Nike, when they first started, they used to use the swoosh, which of course all of us recognize, and they used Just Do It, and they used Nike the word. However, through the years, what they've done in most instances, they've peeled away the other elements of the brand, and you're left with the swoosh. And the swoosh gives you that automatic feeling of performance and Just Do It and Nike. And it's a wonderful, wonderful icon. As a matter of fact, great anecdotal story. Dutch World Soccer Tournament. The sponsor was Adidas, Nike's main competitor. And Nike couldn't get anywhere close to the arenas or the stadiums where they were playing soccer. So what they did, they would put a Nike swoosh on the stoplights, not the red or the green, but the orange one in between. Orange, the color of the Dutch national soccer team. So they made the yellow light, put a slight tint on it with a sort of a stick on, and it became an orange light. And it was a wonderful little coup for Nike, because they managed to basically get everybody talking about the Nike swoosh at this soccer stadium, which was owned not by Nike, but by Adidas. I would also argue that brands like Apple, they own the color white. You take a look at Apple and you go, wow, how'd they do that? White isn't anything special, but the way that Apple used white, the way they used that beautiful Apple symbol in different colors, rainbow colors, or in the silvery colors for the professional Macs, is a real coup. They have turned it into an iconic brand. I also want to tell the story of Ford. One of the most memorable icons in the world is that little oval that you see on the back of Ford cars. A friend of mine, Jeff Stone, art director, was engaged by Ford. They were in a bad way. The bean counters had taken over Ford, and they said, we got to do away with that little round thing at the back. It's old fashioned. And so they basically sized it way down, made it tiny, and replaced it with this huge sort of NASA space type that said Ford. Ugly as sin. Anyways, Jeff Stone went to the Ford factory. He talked to the people who worked there. He said, what makes Ford so special? They said, because we work for the Fords. And at that moment, the light bulb went on for Jeff. And he said, you know what we got to do? We got to bring back that name. That icon is everything. So today, if you look at the back of a Ford F-150 or a Ford Ranger, you can see that that little oval has actually become quite large on the back of Ford trucks because we work for the Fords. It's an iconic brand. So now, how do you create an icon? Every icon starts with an element of brand truth, or at least every icon, if you want to get traction for it, should start with an element of brand truth. Now, I'm going to show you a couple that I did, but first I'm going to start with another one. Let me show you. Okay, now from across the room, you can tell that this is an ad for The Economist. You could also tell this if you were looking down from the top of a building onto the top of a double-decker bus where they used to run Economist ads. You could also tell if you're at one end of a subway platform and the Economist ad was at the other end of the subway platform. It's extremely simple. It's iconic. It is a red box with white type. What makes it iconic, though, as opposed to just a really cool color? It's no coincidence that this ad is red, and that's the typeface they use, Times Roman. The banner of every Economist magazine, if you look at it at the airport, next time you go to the airport, they still have them, these magazine shops, and you look at The Economist, and they have a red banner at the top left that says The Economist. So every time you see an Economist ad, you think of The Economist magazine, and there is no mistake there. Now, here's another example. These are bottles of Sisu vitamins, and this is a project that I was involved in. Now, the problem was vitamin bottles at the time were all over the map. They were a mess in the store. We had to create an iconic brand. So what did we do? We took the color blue. Why did we take the color blue? One, because it reminded us of an old-fashioned apothecary where you would have just tons of blue cobalt bottles standing in this beautiful store. Second, though, Sisu is a brand invented by somebody from Finland. Finland, the color of ice and snow. We made a purposeful decision that we were going to make Sisu vitamins have that Nordic sort of Scandinavian feel. That's also why we used the typeface that we used. And you can see above the I and the U, there are half circles, and those circles complete each other. They're called a harmony mark. They're a take on the German umlaut. They hint at both Germanic, at European. At the same time, though, they also form two halves of a whole. The beauty of this is you walk into a vitamin store and you'll still see them today, these bottles, even though they've changed up the logo and the label, which I think sucks, but you still see the blue bottle and you can spot them from across the store. Final example. Now, this was a campaign that I worked on for a company called Sunoco. Anybody familiar with Sunoco will recognize this logo, yellow and blue. So we wanted to make the icon represent the brand color. Obviously, this, if you didn't already know, is a license plate. The job that these ads had to do was they had to sit on top of the gas pumps because that's the only advertising that Sunoco could afford. They had to sit on top of gas pumps, and then we had to be able to, every week in our computers, wipe away this headline and put a new headline. So we had, I think it was over 700 headlines by the end of this campaign. But that's not the important part. The important part is that an icon starts with an element of brand truth. Yellow, blue, the color of Sunoco, license plate, that is part of the iconography of cars. And most important, you could put these on gas pumps, and we tested this, and you could see it from across the highway in Toronto. You could see these posters, and they were this size. You could see these posters from across the highway, and that's why they did such a great job. So where does that take us? I want to talk to you about one piece of work that I'm working on right now. If you are trying to create an icon, you could have a lot worse start than by starting with a shape. The apple, the Coca-Cola bottle, the Nike swoosh is a shape. The license plate is a shape. The Economist square, because it's exactly the same square that you see in the top corner of the magazine, is a shape. Each of these shapes remind you of the brand because they are true to the brand. Also, shapes are extremely easy to see from a distance. You combine those with the colors of the brand and you've got something. So I want to show you one final piece. This is a work in progress. One of our brand DIY members actually has a store. And all I'm going to say right now is that this box with the UN inside of it, and there's going to be a color here, is going to be core to the brand. And you're going to see this theme again and again and again and again inside their store. And what we're going to do, we are going to create an icon that you can see from across the street, and every touch point inside the store is going to be reinforced by that icon, strengthening their brand and making it more unforgettable to the people who go to the store and love the brand. So there you go. That is what I want to talk to you about. And I can see that Facebook has still hung on. It hasn't cut off the feed. So good work, Mark Zuckerberg, for not cutting us off. It only took 4 times this time. But thank you very much for bearing with me, all of the brand DIYers who stuck around and came back again and again. And that is the show for today. We've got a special expert guest tomorrow, Chris Burge. He's going to talk to us about organizing events for your brand. So there you go. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and stay dry if you're on the West Coast. It is torrential rainpour out there. Have a great day.